Developing the new framework for food safety was challenging. The laws that are in place today were designed in 1906, but they're very different. The meat and poultry statute require that federal inspectors be in every plant every day. FDA's statute was much more reactive. And so before we could move forward with legislation, we really had to figure out what was the right platform. What should a modern food safety system look like? And I think in your packets there may be some slides available to you, but the bottom line is it has a number of elements. The key element is the use of process control systems. These are run by the industry. They're designed by the industry, but they're based on a hazard analysis. So every company needs to analyze its own food stuff to determine what hazards are likely to occur and to control for those hazards. You then have a number of government tools that are essential to effective enforcement of this program. One is inspection. A second is performance standards. But the bottom line is FDA didn't have inspectors in the plants. Their average inspection frequency was once every 10 years. And sometimes for high-risk plants it would be once every 5 years. But the bottom line is the inspection, their inspection program has been grossly inadequate. We also needed on-farm controls because we were seeing problems arising like the spinach outbreak where a hazard got into the foodstuff at the farm itself and then was multiplied through the processing. As the spinach was washed and bagged and distributed, we then had a major outbreak and a deadly outbreak from spinach, so we needed on-farm controls. We saw the need for import controls. There was major problems both with produce coming in from foreign countries. We had outbreaks from melon. We had a major outbreak from hepatitis A that got into salsa at Chi-Chi's restaurant in Pennsylvania and killed a number of people. But we also saw a massive problem in pet food when melamine was intentionally added to an ingredient that was then used throughout the pet food industry. It didn't matter whether you were buying the most expensive stuff or the cheapest stuff. This ingredient was in a large quantity of pet food, and many animals were sickened, and they estimate that thousands of cats and dogs died. But it could have very easily been a human ingredient. And in fact, we saw that later in China where melamine had gotten into infant formula and caused a number of deaths, over 50 deaths in China, and thousands and thousands of illnesses. So the bottom line was we needed a much better system. We did start in 2002 by getting some provisions into the Bioterrorism Act. But FDA, even back then, was not taking the issue very seriously. We got them a provision for registration of food plants, but they didn't really implement it effectively. And they would go to Congress and testify that they had a certain number of plants in there that they were inspecting, but in fact their registration numbers available on the web had an entirely different number. So FDA itself was not taking this question of modernization very seriously. So we have been very lucky. CSPI developed the framework for the new legislation, and I am proud to say that whistleblower protection was something that got drilled into me at Antioch when Mark and I were there, and it became part of our framework for enforcement. And I can tell you we also had citizen suit provisions and very strong civil penalties built into the framework that we gave to Congress as essential for implementation of this bill. We didn't get those, we got a very weak civil penalty provision. We didn't get citizen suit provisions, but we were very, very happy to see the whistleblower protection provision survive both the House and the Senate. So, and I can tell you that this provision is essential for the FDA regulated products, because even with the new legislation, the inspection frequency is still going, for domestic facilities, is still going to be very inadequate. The mandate is after a 5-year phase-in, they will only be inspecting high-risk facilities once every 3 years. So the bottom line is we are going to need plant workers who are engaged, who understand the law, and who are willing to speak out when companies are falsifying records.
December 23rd, 2003, the cow that stole Christmas. We had a cow, the first cow in the United States that was diagnosed with mad cow disease. And so right after that, in early January, the USDA published an interim rule that essentially said that any cow over 30 months, the plants would have to remove the central nervous system from those cows. The science showed that cows over 30 months are more likely to exhibit the symptoms of mad cow disease. So, and the central nervous system is where the disease manifests itself. So USDA said, okay, so any cow that is over 30 months that's slaughtered, the central nervous system has to come out. What USDA did was essentially place that responsibility on the companies. It wasn't something that the USDA inspectors had hands-on responsibility for. Starting in the summer of 2004, the head of the inspectors union at USDA started to receive reports from some of its inspectors that the company employees were not adhering to the new regulations. So when he accumulated a number of complaints from his membership, in December of 2004 sent a letter to his boss at USDA headquarters saying, look, we're getting reports that the company employees not adhering to the new regulations. Why don't you let us handle some of those procedures directly? And so a number of weeks went by. He did not get a response from his boss at USDA headquarters. So Stan Painter, the head of the inspectors union, went public and said the companies are not following the new regulations. Instead of investigating whether his allegations were true, USDA decided to investigate Stan. Had him come into Washington, subjected him to 7 hours of interrogation, wanting the names of the inspectors who were giving him this information. When he refused to divulge that information, then the USDA called all of his regional presidents, the regional officers of the union, into Washington for another days of interrogation. And when they wouldn't divulge the names, the USDA put Stan under investigation to the extent that they also wanted the USDA Inspector General to conduct criminal investigation into Stan. And as you recall, back in 2003, when the mad cow incident occurred, virtually all of our beef exports stopped. Countries would not accept our beef because of the incidents of the mad cow incident. Japan was our biggest export market. Because of Stan Painter's allegations that the procedures weren't being followed, the Japanese government started to ask USDA what was being done about the union's allegations. And what USDA did was post on the embassy website in Tokyo a bunch of derogatory information about Mr. Painter, including that they wanted to launch a criminal investigation into Mr. Painter. Both GAP and Food and Water Watch filed a Freedom of Information Act request to gather any non-compliance reports. These are the reports that the inspectors write up when violations occur, regulations, to prove that Mr. Painter's allegations were accurate. That Freedom of Information Act request went into USDA in December 2004. After congressional hearings that protested USDA's actions against Mr. Painter, consumer groups writing into USDA protesting the way Mr. Painter was being treated, in August of 2005, the Freedom of Information Act request response came, and sure enough, there were 114 instances that proved that Mr. Painter's allegations were true. And it wasn't until that day that they stopped their investigation into Mr. Painter. Now, what did that do? Even though that incident happened 6 years ago, to this day, you still hear inspectors say, well, I'm not going to put my job on the line because if they could do that to the union president, what are they going to do, to me? And it has poisoned the labor relations at USDA with their inspectors union, and they've had to bring in facilitators to try to smooth over the relationship. But it is still something, at least with this generation of USDA inspectors, that still remains in their minds.
The conditions for farm workers really are pretty poor and pretty backwards for a variety of reasons. One is that through the magic of immigration policy for about 300 years, we have disempowered farm workers. They come here in a status that really makes them very vulnerable and denies them bargaining power vis-a-vis their employers and as well as the government. So what have we done recently? Well, recently we basically created immigration laws and rules, and then we don't enforce them. And we effectively invite farm workers from people from other countries to come into this country, but not have a legal immigration status. So they are here kind of in a very vulnerable status where they're fearful of what will happen to them if they are found out. We have a broken immigration system. Our organization, like many others, has been working for a number of years on a compromise with agribusiness to fix this broken immigration system. It's so broken and so ludicrous that even we agree on a solution with the grower groups. But even that is too much to ask for Congress. And so more than half the farm workers in the country are undocumented. In some local areas, you're talking 90% of the farm workers lacking authorized immigration status. So what happens? Well, very often they are really afraid to come forward and complain about anything, to tell their employer that they want better wages and working conditions, or to tell the government to come in and enforce the limited rights that they have. So there are organizations like the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, the United Farm Workers, Farm Labor Organizing Committee, PACUN up in Oregon, and others that are mobilizing farm workers and giving them a voice and empowering them to demand better things from their employers and their communities and the government. But the truth is that only a very small percentage of farm workers in this country are organized. So the idea that farm workers will come forward and be whistleblowers well, it's just very difficult. Very difficult. I'm a lawyer. I'm a labor lawyer by training. Now they have me doing this administrative stuff, but I love to file lawsuits for workers in court. But it's very, very difficult to convince farm workers to step forward and file a lawsuit, even when there are egregious violations, because they just feel like they're going to be found out, they're going to be fired, and they're going to be deported. And even if they're here legally, they know plenty of people who are not, and they're afraid for their friends and family members who could be deported. So they're here to make money, to work hard, to support their families. Okay, if they're not getting the minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, they're making $5 an hour. Well, you know, what do we say about that? Well, we say, well, that's better than they'd make in their home country, right? So if that's the measure by which we decide things, well, then it is better. But of course, it's a totally inappropriate response. There are massive violations of farm workers' rights in this country. You go anywhere and talk to farm workers, it's the most amazing thing. You know, I've been in vineyards where they make, I like wine. I've been in a couple of vineyards where they make really good wine. I mean, stuff that I really can't afford, and by far, but would love to drink. And you talk to the workers there and you figure, okay, these are going to be like the most stable workers in the country, right? Because they're making loads of money selling bottles, $45 to $150 a bottle. They can afford to pay these workers, give them health care, give them a retirement plan, and you know, treat them well. Well, first of all, you talk to them. They're undocumented too. They're making $9 an hour, which actually is pretty good in comparison to a lot of other farm workers. No benefits. Zero. Nothing. And that's the high end of agribusiness in this country in a lot of ways.
I was in a USDA regulated facility. I worked for Beef Products Incorporated. Left that company, was in a ready-to-eat industry, so I know about ready-to-eat products, and now I'm in an FDA regulated facility and in the grain industry. So I have a wide range of knowledge and background to speak towards this sort of thing. I would like to tout Beef Products. A company here that, this is public information, this is their website, this is exactly what's posted. And what exactly are we talking about? BPI, if you'll read here, BPI's products are found in the majority of ground beef produced in the United States. Do you eat at McDonald's? Do you eat at Sonic? Do you buy ground beef in the grocery store? You're eating this product. America is eating this product. Do I have your attention yet? Please. BPI collects the beef trimmings. They use a raw material that's about 70% fat. They spin off all the fat, they get rid of the fat, and they produce a very lean meat product. That's why companies are buying it. They can produce a leaner meat product cheaper using this product. So here it says they desinue it. They take, this mouse does not like me. Okay, they take the outside pieces of the carcass and they put it through a desinewing device. This is a grinder. And they grind it all up and they try to get all the non-functional protein out so that they can make a meat product that they can mix with ground beef. From here, I want to go to food safety. And I think this is relatively safe because I just said BPI uses a grinder. BPI elicits the Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point System, the HACCP system. Okay, since BPI mentioned the HACCP system, I think this is free information that BPI utilizes HACCP, but if you will look it up, I just told you they have a grinder in their operation, but under HACCP, BPI is raw, not ground. You have a grinder? You're going into ground beef? Would y'all care to explain that to me? Why do you not want to be in the raw ground area? You know, I don't know, but I happen to know from regulation that if you're in a raw ground product, you undergo salmonella testing through the USDA. Is that a potential that you're trying to avoid salmonella testing? That you're avoiding an action that could make your product safer? Would there happen to be a possibility that this product is extremely high in salmonella? Why would you want to do that? HACCP plans should be able to be viewed through the Freedom of Information Act. I would challenge you that BPI is classified as raw, not ground, and it is my opinion that they are doing that to avoid regulation. Going back to the process, BPI has to separate fat from lean. Right here, the trim is then tempered to near post-mortem temperature. They heat it up. They heat it up to a temperature that happens to be where bacteria love to grow. It's optimum growth for bacteria. I want you to keep that in mind. We're going to come back to that. That's optimum temperature to grow bacteria. Food safety. We promote food safety. This is BPI. Pathogen reduction. Two independent studies here. Iowa State National Food Lab. They're telling you that we spent hundreds of thousands, okay, probably $100,000, a lot of money on independent testing. We got it approved, and BPI uses ammonia. Look up Mr. Clean. Do you want to know that when you go to McDonald's, instead of 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on the sesame seed bun, that it should say, with Mr. Clean? Would you like to know that? That's somewhat why I'm here. I think you should know that. You should be able to make a choice that the beef that you're eating is treated with Mr. Clean to clean it up. You don't know that. That's a little, boom, little light bulbs are going off. I didn't know that. It's true. This study, they're saying it eliminated E. coli 0157 as well as reduced salmonella and listeria. I'm telling you, this study, public, is false. Oh, it happened. It happened in a controlled laboratory environment. Their process, they never run like this study is. This meat that was caused those reductions was nuked. The pH level was all the way up to 10. On their HACCP plan, public information, the pH level will never touch 10. If they want to come up here and talk about it, they can come up here and talk about it. But I challenge them that they have never made this study reality. They never see those kind of reductions in real life in their facility. And the ammonia smell coming off this product is outrageous. No consumer would buy it. You will not buy it if it stinks like ammonia. But this is the information that was given to the USDA to get this approved, because the USDA saw it and said, crud, this is almost like cooking. They ate it up. Because it was represented as this is real life. This is not real life. This is not what BPI does. You will not see in any of their records in their production that they ammoniated up to a pH of 10. Because they can't get rid of the smell. And they do not tell anybody that they're using anhydrous ammonia. They hide behind ammonium hydroxide. Ammonium hydroxide technically is odorless. Find some of BPI's product and I guarantee you will smell ammonia. The main thing about the Food Safety and Modernization Act is exactly what we're talking about now. You need a whistleblower. You need to send FDA into a facility at about 3 o'clock in the morning. You need to be able to talk to one of those line workers and pull him off and go, would you eat the product you make here? And if he goes, there's your whistleblower. Let's talk to him. I want to talk to that guy. He's the dude that's there. I had an FDA inspection in one of the facilities I'm at now. They sent a state person. I appreciate that they did that so that we could have the inspection and start with the company that I'm working for. The guy was used to looking at restaurants. This is a 70,000 square foot facility, and I couldn't get the guy out of the bathroom. Because that was all he was comfortable with and trained to inspect. He looked at, wow, you got paper towels, you got soap, you got a trash can, you can wash your hands, good to go. You're set. It was a joke. It is a joke. You need to be able to talk to the people there. I'm still in industry. I still am into quality. I still try to make sure that a company meets regulations and sells safe products. I still need laws like this. It doesn't end, it goes forward. This is still happening. This is real. This is a company that's false advertising right now. They're in all the ground beef that you eat. You're eating it every day. You know, I really apologize. I hope we're not having hamburgers for lunch because I'm in trouble.